welcome. My name is Lara. I've been working with kaleidoscopes for a number of years, and I've been training people how to experience and benefit most from the healing properties while working with light. And recently I started up a YouTube channel, and I thought, well, what better time than now to actually start sharing this information. I don't know if any of you are following a lot of the predictions or the prophecies that are coming out right now. And there is really a lot that each of us have to take in, because there's this feeling inside of us that's pulling us towards a greater understanding. Like there's this pull that we need to know. And we need to know for a very specific reason. The most important thing about this is that the only answer is actually going to come from within us, because each of us are on an individual journey. So we can have lots of different aspects and lots of different points of view. But the most important one is to realize, what is your heart saying? What is your center saying? And that's the underlying message of what kaleidoscopes bring. Kaleidoscopes bring a mental attitude of oneness, of completeness, because it realizes that out of the chaos, which is the kaleidoscope image of this random bits of glass and pieces that just tumble and turn at will, there's a almost like a shadow opposite that's playing out in our lives, that even though we feel we're in control, all the pieces are fitting together perfectly. So even when there is a feeling of being in control or out of control, we know that there's a higher good that we're all working towards. And this is a feeling I'd like to share with you, is actually how to embody the healing energies of light while working with color. So this series is devoted to understanding how kaleidoscopes work, if you have one, how to use it, how to get the best out of this product. And my feeling around it is that kaleidoscopes have re-emerged at this time because of the changes that each of us are going through at the moment. And if we can learn how to harness or understand what the messages are that are being filtered down to us through light, not only into our DNA, but also into our mental and emotional bodies. So there's a greater understanding or awareness that's unfolding that can lead us to maybe discovering more about our purpose, and maybe fine-tuning us while on this mission, or our purpose for this lifetime, is to really get the most out of it.
40,000 years since self-consciousness has been developing individuality. And maybe the whole development of ego is necessary in order for us to become individuals who are not embedded in nature and just purely children of God. So out of that, we have individuated right up to the edge of individualization destroying us. Now, the way we become multicellular, the way we join together, is first of all by individuals feeling the need to find that divine self within, because you can't really join as an ego with ego.
If life starts approximately 1 billion years ago, we will have to wait 400,000 years to see the aberration of the first nerve cells. This is where life as we know it begins. Brains in formation of only a few milligrams. It's not possible to determine any sign of intelligence yet. It acts more as a reflex. One neuron, you're alive. Two neurons, you're moving. And with movement, interesting things begin to happen. Animal life on Earth goes back millions of years, yet most species only use 3 to 5% of its cerebral capacity. But it isn't until we reached human beings at the top of the animal chain that we finally see a species use more of its cerebral capacity. 10% may not seem like much, but it's a lot if you look at all we've done with it. Now let's discuss a special case. The only living being that uses its brain better than us, the dolphin. It is estimated that this incredible animal uses up to 20% of its cerebral capacity. In particular, this allows it to have an echolocation system that is more efficient than any sonar invented by mankind. But the dolphin did not invent the sonar, it developed it naturally. And this is the crucial part of our philosophical reflection we have today. Can we therefore conclude that humans are concerned more with having than being?
Newest piece of neurological machinery. It's the most specialized and advanced in human beings and dolphins. You're listening to me right now with your neocortex. It's the seat of your thinking brain. Right underneath your neocortex is another brain called the limbic brain, or the emotional brain, or the chemical brain, or the mammalian brain. And right behind that is what's called the cerebellum. It's part of the reptilian brain. It's the oldest brain in evolution, and it's the seat of your subconscious mind. Now, your brain is made up of 100 billion neurons. If you took 100 billion sheets of paper and stacked them on top of each other, it would be 5,000 miles high. That's the distance from Los Angeles to London. And in the thinking brain, you have about 10,000 to 40,000 connections per neuron in your thinking brain. But they're not really two-dimensional like that. They're more three-dimensional. And if you took a piece of gray matter the size of a grain of sand, you would have 100,000 neurons in them with over 1 billion connections. Now, nerve cells in the neocortex love to learn. And the function of the neocortex is to learn new information. And so every time you learn something new, you make a new connection in your thinking brain. So you come to the Lohas event, and you learn about sustainability, or you learn about leadership, or emotional connection, and every time you learn something new, your brain physically changes and you upscale your hardware to reflect what you've learned. And every single bit of information that your neocortex, your thinking brain, is conscious of, whether it's theory, philosophy, intellectual data, facts, there's a physical change that takes place in your brain. So, as your brain begins to pay attention to new information, and there's physical changes, the research shows that you can make up to 2,600 connections in your thinking brain when you're exposed to new information. That was research done by Kandel in the year 2000. But what he found out is that if you learn that information and you don't revisit it, the neurons begin to break apart. So if learning is making synaptic connections, then remembering is maintaining and sustaining those connections. And it takes a little bit of repetition for nerve cells to begin to develop a long-term relationship. So as you begin to pay attention and repeat what you're learning, your neurons begin to fire and wire together. And the more they communicate, the more they develop a long-term relationship. And just like any relationship, the more you communicate, the more bonded you become. So as you learn vital information, then your brain begins to assemble those networks of information into what's called neural networks. And neural networks are just gangs of neurons that have fired and wired together to form a community of neurosynaptic connections. And it could be related to a thought, an idea, a memory, a skill, or a behavior. And neuroscientists affectionately call these neural networks because they're clusters that are related to something that you can do or think. You want to see a thought? There you go. That's a thought right there. And your brain generates more electrical impulses in one day than all of the cell phones on the planet put together. So as your neurons begin to fire into networks, those networks are physical representations of something that you've learned in your external environment. So you're sitting here this weekend and you're learning important information about leadership or sustainability or innovation. And as you learn this information, it is stored in your philosophical, theoretical, intellectual, analytical neocortex. Now, when you take that information and you apply it, and you personalize it or demonstrate it, it means you're going to have to modify your behavior in some way and do something differently. The moment you change your actions and you do something differently, you're going to have a new experience. Now, when you're in the midst of an experience, all of your five senses plug you into the external environment. And as your brain is picking up all this vital sensory data, all that information is rushing back to your brain, and it's causing jungles of neurons to begin to organize themselves into patterns. The moment those neurons string into place, they reinforce the circuits that you learned intellectually, and your brain then makes a chemical. And that chemical is called a feeling or an emotion. So the moment you experience something new, your body begins to get to a new emotional signature, and that emotion then begins to teach your body what your mind has intellectually understood. So then you can remember the birth of one of your children, you can remember graduating from college, you can remember a promotion, you can remember catching a fish off the coast of Mexico, you can remember where you were on 9/11. As a matter of fact, you could tell me where you were, what time of day it was, and what you were doing. And we could say that everything that you were seeing and hearing changed your internal chemical state. And the moment you felt differently inside of you, you woke up and paid attention to what caused it outside of you. And that event, in and of itself, is called a memory.
we were people saying the words, holding the faith. In other words, it's staying in the vibration of expectation even though there's no evidence yet to support it. It's where trust comes in. It's trusting that this good feeling has to lead to what I'm really looking for. And sometimes you've trained yourself to be very practical. In other words, people around you have really encouraged you to face reality. We know that they have. And they want you to put your money where your mouth is. They want you to tell it like it is. And so we know you are living in a world that's really not yet oriented in a very open way to understanding the power of vibration and the power of feeling. So we know it does take some trust and some faith in the face of the absence of something that you want. But we promise you, if you can just hang in there and feel a little better and feel a little better and feel a little better, the evidence must come. It is law. It has to come, you see. We can say to you, and we're giving this to you accurately and specifically, that what's been happening to you is that you have fanned the flames of your desire so that there is a bright pulsing light there. In other words, there's strong pulling too. There is, because of the amount of time that you've spent identifying what you want and your deliberate work on processes that have activated what you really want, that part of the equation is really pulling strong. And that is, in fact, the reason that you're feeling so much discomfort in the absence of the evidence that you're looking for. But there's good news in that, which says the energy is pulling so strong that in the moment you release your resistance, you're going to move right there fast. In other words, it's going to be one of those things that's going to go boom. You're going to say, I had no idea it was that close. But getting to the point to which you get to the releasing of resistance is the only time factor. So what we always recommend to someone who has this strong energy pulling and still this pattern of resistance is get off the subject for a while. Find something else that is interesting to give your attention to. Distract yourself, because what's happening every time you focus upon this subject of importance, you amplify the crevasse between where you are and where you want to be, and you don't make any progress. So we want to say to you, step one is well in place. Oh boy, is it well in place. Source energy is fully behind it. The manifestation will be significant when it unfolds for you. In other words, there won't be some gentle unfolding. It's going to be significant. People are going to be startled who are watching nearby. But the amount of time that it takes is really about how long it takes you to chill out. It's close. Just don't worry about how close it is. Distract yourself in the meantime and get ready for amazement as it comes. That's the way these things play out. We're not kidding you. We have this knowing.
The energy that's generated from the central battery. Its power comes from the will of every living creature in the universe. It in turn charges your lantern, which in turn charges your ring. Even your suit is comprised entirely of energy. What's with all the green? Green is the color of will. The Guardians harnessed will because it's the strongest source of energy in the universe. Your will turns thought into reality. To master the ring, you must learn to focus your will and create what you see in your mind. The ring's limits are only what you can imagine.